Hello and welcome to my review for the new Toe album, Now I See the Light. So Toe was formed in the year 2000 in Tokyo, and there are four members. There is Hirokazu Yamazaki on lead vocals and guitar. Takaki Mino is also on guitar as well. Satoshi Yamane is on bass, and Takashi Kashikura is on the drums. So I have been waiting to review this album because I was waiting to get the vinyl in hand in person. And that's because there are some songs on here with lyrics. However, Hirokazu Yamazaki is a really difficult singer to understand. He is technically a bad singer, but he sounds amazing. And he has sounded amazing for the last 20 years on every song for Toe that he sings. So now that we've gone over that, let's talk about where the band is at now. So they're coming off of about a 6-year hiatus. Their last full album, Hear You, came out in 2015, and this thing's fantastic. I think it's maybe my second favorite album of theirs, at least up until before this new album came out. This new album is probably my second favorite of theirs. Now, in between 2015 and now, they had actually released another EP in 2018. The only way that I can verbalize how I feel about this EP is that it is destructive. Emotionally, sonically, it's awful. I love it. Fantastic project. Weirdly enough, I was in Tokyo last year and I was just in Tower Records, just going through all the vinyl. And then I saw this and I was like, oh, that's a pretty photo. So I pick it up and who's it fucking by? It's by Toe. I had no idea they came out with this last year, but apparently they did a month prior to when I saw this in store. So I was like, oh shit, I gotta get this. So it's a collaboration with two Japanese artists, the rappers. So it's kind of outside of their regular wheelhouse, sort of. Their music is definitely rappable. However, I wouldn't really call them hip-hop producers or instrumentalists in really any way. However, totally works on this album. I totally see it. So now let's actually talk about this new album. So I've been kind of sitting over it for the past 3 months or so. I find that this is a very strange album for me in particular. In one way, it sounds like all of their other music, and for that reason, it sounds very familiar in a lot of ways. But because it's new content, it also sounds very fresh. So it's got this freshness and this familiarity that is a really nice contrast to each other. And I think that's one reason why I've really become attached to this album. So with Toe mainly being a math rock band, they also kind of take inspirations from post-rock and sort of indie rock, and I'd say almost even jazz. So for this review, I'm going to be going song by song, just because there are so many very specific things that I like about each song. It would be hard to not talk about them as standout tracks in a list. So let's just do it that way. So the first song is called Kaze to Kyoku, and the official translation of it on the vinyl is Wind and Recollections, which I think also works very well. So composition-wise, it really reminds me of something from For Long Tomorrow, which is an album they released about 16 years ago, with also a similar sound to their follow-up album, which I believe is called The Book on the Plot of My Vague Anxiety. The book of the plot of my idle vague anxiety. I know I'm not getting it right, but I know all of those words are included in this long-ass fucking title that I've never been able to remember. It's the one with the deer head that's 90 degrees this way. This has that familiarity that I mentioned to it, and I think the song being called Wind and Recollections is also indicative of them trying to kind of harken back to that somewhat older sound of theirs as well. So on this album, there are only a few songs that actually have vocals on them. The next one is the first of those. The next song is called Loneliness Will Shine, and it was essentially the lead single for this album. It came out as a music video a little bit prior to the album coming out. It's a very cool music video. I recommend you watch it. I find that this sounds completely new for the band. However, it still is very reminiscent of their early work. I think the guitars just have this fantastic warmth to them. I just love that. I love the guitar melody, which is fantastic, of course, as well. And the melodies produced by the guitars, I find just really fill in each other's gaps. Since Toe is a math rock band, they are very heavily reliant on that sort of melodic, rhythmic riffing. And this song in particular really reminds me of one from their 2018 EP, Our Latest Number. It feels like it could really just fit on that album just seamlessly. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe this was from that whole era and they now carried it over to this project. So as always, when I go over the lyrics, there are a few things to note. One, I translate them myself. Two, I am not a native Japanese speaker, but I'm pretty okay. 3, I'm not going to have the definitive translation. Everyone is probably going to have their own interpretation of it. And 4, Hirokazu is probably one of the most esoteric songwriters I've ever listened to. I am really looking forward to actually showcasing that in this review. But his lyrics are really hard to get a grasp on as they're very abstract. So nothing's really surface level. You really have to think about what he's trying to say when he's not saying it, right? So let's start. So this is from the beginning of the song. So this is kind of a verse mixed with the refrain. My voice withered. That sky became more familiar to me. Lingering memories that shiver. Thoughts that shake me. Eternity that birthed that day of distant separation. The empty world changed forever. Besides the silent darkness I search for. Thoughts, the wall of hope. Yesterday's light and darkness. I cried with a smile on my face. I made my integrity clear. I held onto a flower, a lonely dancer with hands covered. So what I get from this is he's kind of talking about the after effects of the breakdown of a relationship. And whether that's romantic or just kind of interpersonal or platonic, we don't really know. It doesn't really matter. I feel like everyone feels this at some point, no matter what the label is on the relationship. I think in particular that section, lingering memories that shiver, thoughts that shake me, eternity that birthed that day of distant separation. I think that part is just so like intensely like sad, right? Eternity that birthed that day of distant separation. Ugh, that's awful. That can be translated in all kinds of ways, but I really like that one, not just because that's my own translation, but I just think that it is really poetic in a way. And so as happy as I am to actually have new Toe music out, I'm just excited to kind of hear him again. I'm happy that not only is the band back, he's back, the goat's back, Dad's back in the house, and I am so happy for it. So the next song is called Todo Inada. So this song probably features the most infectious guitar lick that I've heard like all year. I do very much feel like this song sort of lives up to its Latin-y namesake and is something that is actually for the band, and I think they executed well on this song. And something about this song is just very dancey to me. I can kind of like move my shoulders to it. There is also this very plucky guitar melody that is like consistently playing throughout the background that I find fills in the gaps of the main melody super well and very appropriately. So the next song is called Machi no Doko Kade, and that means somewhere in the city. There's not really a lot to go over with this song. It's more of an interlude. It's very short. It still has this like very plucky and mysterious leading guitar melody that I do really like, but that's kind of all that's here. And I'm not gonna fault it for not really exceeding any expectations considering it is an interlude. But the next song, Who Boy. So this next song is called Who Knows. And this is another of the very few songs that has vocals on this album. And there is actually a featured singer on here who I need to look up. So one moment, please. Okay, so I believe the guest singer on here is named Kodama Nao. I think her voice like perfectly suits this song and really complements Hirokazu's really well. So great choice there, guys. Good for you. I find that this song has this real sort of sentimentality to it. It features this sort of emotional tenderness, which I just adore from this band. So as I said, there are male and female vocals on here, so this song's actually more of a duet. So it starts off. It's still spring, right? We turn red. My hand shaked. It was time. Mere love. We turn it on. A shout. I blinked. I dance alone. You dance alone. Alone together. Who knows eternity? So I find that this song sort of continues that theme of things ending and more is still to come. And I find this album is kind of about how the good days are now behind you and you don't really know what comes next. Maybe you're excited, maybe you're not. And I feel like that's really cemented in the who knows eternity line. Something that is also interesting to note as well is the word eternity here is not the one they've been using so far on this album. While it's two particular kanji, which would normally be an, the sound they're actually saying is towa. And from what I found, towa is a very abnormal yet still correct way to pronounce these two kanji. So it's kind of got this archaicness to it in that way. And I think that's a very interesting choice for an album that is obviously gripping with the concept of time and time passing, and particularly eternity, which, as I've said, shows up in multiple songs, as we see here on this one, and on the last one, and maybe on another one coming up. And with that said, I really like the recurring motifs on this album. So not only do we have Eternity, we also have that shaking hand like we had in the previous song too. So I wonder what that has to do with things. I don't know. I'll leave that up to you. If you want to use Google Translate or something on your own and just kind of input that there, I mean, hey, that's up to you. That's up to you, bud. So the next song is called Close to You. I like the song a lot. It is very Hear You-y. That's their album from 2015. But yeah, I just love the rhythm of the song. Not much else to say. There are no lyrics. It's a fantastic math rock song. It's a fantastic toe song. 2 thumbs up. There are no misses on this album at all. Okay, so the next song is called Chiaroscuro. And I just looked this up because I had actually not done my research for this song in particular. So I'll just read off the Wikipedia description of it here. In art, chiaroscuro is the use of strong contrast between light and dark, usually bold contrasts affecting a whole composition. Interesting. Well, we've already talked about light and darkness once on this so far. Again, Hirokazu killing it with those motifs. So I find that there is just this fantastic sense of like energy and speed on this song. Once again, it kind of feels like a return to form for the band, especially compared to that 2023 single and that 2018 EP. And of course, it also features their trademark rolling synth from For Long Tomorrow, which I'm just a huge fan of. So I'm happy to see it here again, just like last time. Our next song is called Sunny Boy Rhapsody, and this is another with lyrics. Now, this is quite possibly, and I mean this seriously, the most lyrically and thematically dense Japanese song I have ever heard in my entire life. It still has that kind of hear you sound from that album. The refrain is insanely catchy, which I will be getting into. I love this thing. Have you seen that meme that's like, yo, his writing's fire? That's how I feel about this song. It's insane. I will be sure to include the lyrics on the screen, like right up here maybe. So do you see all of that Japanese that I'm maybe nebulously pointing towards over here? That's all that Japanese. And below that, I have the way in which you say the words, okay? Or at least the way that the singer pronounces them, because there is a shit ton of wordplay at play on this song. So here's how you sing the hook. O A O Te O. So that's that first line. And then the second is I O O A O. Okay. So the whole thing is O A O Te O, I O O A O. Here's why he's cooking here. So somewhere over here, I will have my English translation of the lyrics as well. Okay. So the translation is pictures that chase, hands that cover up, a shadow of responsibility that I owe. Okay? So not only is it rhyming sonically, it's also kind of sonically symmetrical, right? But he's using all kinds of like words here and sort of not correctly, but that's on purpose. I will highlight one of the kanji here. So this is the kanji for the word shadow, which is kage. But as you can see, he's not saying kage, he's saying a. And you're like, can he do that? Is that legal? Sort of. Yeah. So this kanji in conjunction with another can have the sound a, okay? Instead of actually using the word for the word that he's saying, he is using the sound for the character for the word in order to make it all rhyme. So this sound he's using is called the onyomi reading, okay? There is an onyomi reading and a kunyomi reading. The kunyomi would be kage, which is shadow, which is a noun. But again, the onyomi is he is using the e, in which can be used in conjunction with other words, like I believe kyo, which means influence or effect. Okay, so he is like just kind of picking and choosing parts of like speech, and he's like, I'm going to use that here. It technically doesn't make sense, but if you think about it, it does. And again, Hirokazu is such a, I'm sorry to say it, bad singer because he can't really verbalize these things as well as a good singer would. It all kind of sounds together and blends together, but he's using that for the effect of making it rhyme and using it in a very clever usage of wordplay and like grammar play, which is so cool. So yeah, love this song. It's fantastic. And actually just the sound of the hook is like, ooh, oh. Like, yeah, I'm fucking here for it, dude. This rocks. This is so good. I love this. This song gets 3 thumbs up. Easy. any day of the week. Okay, so after that, we have the cute little song called Madness Summer. It's another interlude, and it reminds me of the band Hyake, who is another math rock band, sort of also from around the time that Toe really rose to prominence, kind of like mid 2000s, late 2000s, early 2010s. I recommend checking that out. So, yeah, that's all I got for this cute little interlude. So, one thing I will say is that song actually leads perfectly into the next one, which is called Now I See the Light. I love the vocals on this one. And the song also features Seigen Tokuzawa on the cello in the back half of the song. They really make this song come full circle, so hats off to them. With this being the final song on the album, we might not hear from Toe for a very long time. It's kind of up in the air, though they did post a photo on their Instagram story of them in the recording studio, so maybe. Let's talk about the lyrics now. This is the passage I want to read for you. How can I see you? On the other side of the darkness. What was it you imparted? It had no meaning nor laughter. I won't report it. Your reason is, your hopes are, things that bring that kind of sadness. And I see the light now. And I see the light now. Colors of the days. Am I chasing yesterday? And I see the light now. So as we know, the title of this album is Now I See the Light. That is obviously a direct connection to this song, right? What can we ascertain from the lyrics here? He's now past whatever frustration or sadness or despair he was feeling, and he's come out the other side. And he's feeling pretty good about the situation as a whole. And I think that's really shown in the fact that he's now able to identify what was causing him sadness. And I think that's very important in the healing process. And I think him outright mentioning it really means that he has like worked through his issues and worked on himself and now come out the other side, as he says. It's a great album. It's a great album with great lyrics. This song, pretty great too. Okay, so those are all the songs. As I've talked about, there is a lot of mentions of eternity, perpetuity, and just things everlasting, which I think must have been really heavy on Hirokazu's mind at the time. And I hope that's not indicative of anything existential that he's working through. I really do wish him the best so that, you know, he can be a happy person, because that's important in life. So this album is in a really interesting spot for me. So to me, it sounds like a natural progression of their more sort of melancholic and subtle sound. I think Hirokazu really cooked with these lyrics. I think they are equally subtle and deep and just detailistic and just very honest, deep thoughts that he's maybe just kind of grappled with for some time now. So kind of as I said earlier, there is a thesis on the album. I don't know what it is. I don't think there's an interview in which they state it or hint at it. But if I had to guess, if I had to use that English degree that I don't have, this album exists in order to tell the listener that everything is going to work out and everything is going to be fine. And you will be fine and things will be fine. It just will take some time. In general, I think this album just sounds like a hug. And that's just really nice. And we need more of that. I just like albums that are nice. They're great. So to be honest with you, there's one thing I've kind of had to grapple with lately, and that's what I should rate this album. I feel like objectively, I would give it a 9 out of 10. But subjectively, I would give it a 10 out of 10. For me, this album came out at a very specific time and day where it just hit perfectly. And so now whenever I listen to it, I'm just going to have like certain memories attached with it. So, you know, for that sentimentality, I really lean towards that 10 mark. I just wish there was more Toe on this because I have been waiting 6 years for more Toe, but that's also just me being selfish. And you don't really want to be selfish as a reviewer, in my opinion. I think ultimately I would give this a 10 out of 10. Now, mind you, this is still not my favorite Toe album. That would still be For Long Tomorrow. And I think that album is an 11 out of 10. So do it that way you will. I do think this is an instant classic for the band's discography. And from what I've seen on all sorts of subreddits, like r/Japanese music, r/math rock, r/indie heads, people are really liking this too and are also considering it to be like one of the best math rock releases of the year, which frankly, I am completely in agreement with. I think this thing is fantastic. I think everyone should listen to it. I think everyone should own it. I think everyone should stream it. I think you should do anything you can to have this album in your life. And like I said, if you're interested, you should use Google Translate to go through all of the lyrics. There's not a lot, it's pretty easy, and a lot of it is repeated, but I think it would be interesting to translate the lyrics for yourself and to have your own opinion on them, and to kind of ascertain the meaning of the lyrics through your own experiences and your own worldview. I think that'd be a really cool exercise because that's what I did, and I think that's why I rated this album as high as it did, and why I will always like this album as much as I do. So, yeah, 10 out of 10. I think that's my final verdict. But yeah, so thank you so much for watching. I know this was a long one, so if you stuck with it all the way, thank you so much, and have a good rest of your day and or night or afternoon even. Bye.